the pleasure of having with me Mr. Asa Cox, who is from Arcanum. Welcome along.
Thank you. Great to be here. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Welcome to my kitchen. It's where I happen to be sitting today. But we had the luxury of meeting at the Edge conference on the wonderful Gold Coast of Australia not that long ago. And you had a good time when you were there?
It was great. It was a little bit warmer, which was nice, coming from New Zealand. But it was great. Yeah, for me, it was my first Edge conference, first real deep dive into MSPs and VARs and stuff. It was awesome. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, there's a real cauldron of a mix there, actually. Quite a few MSPs. There's a lot of people from vendor land, of course, because there was people sponsoring. And it was great to have a sort of a Kiwi first day there with some good speakers and stuff. But I had a really good time, actually. It was 3 or 4 days. We were there as a sponsor. We got quite a lot out of it. Just working our way through the deals and things now. But that's cool. And so why don't you start off with just introducing yourself and your company, and then I'll do the same, and we'll just go from there.
Cool. So Asa, founder of Arcanum AI, set the company up in 2016. I'm a Brit originally, so I've been in New Zealand 10 years. Spent a few years in Canada before coming to New Zealand. Kind of got into tech when I was in Canada. So when I came to New Zealand, wanted to really double down on that space. When started talking about AI in 2016, it's kind of some respects it's moved on a lot, and some respects it hasn't in terms of the conversation. So back then it was still AI is the Terminator coming to take over the world. Back then it felt more ridiculous than maybe it feels now for some people. But over the years, we've worked with big enterprises on kind of AI adoption, AI R&D, and now the battle to get people interested in AI is a lot lower than it was. People are very keen and kind of got more educated, and that was clear at the Edge conference and the kind of discussions that we had there. So in terms of what we do, we've got kind of 3 components to it. One is exec workshops. So we help people think through what AI adoption should look like. Then we've got a connected tools platform where we're kind of working through a lot of use cases for AI inside people's businesses. And then the third part are autonomous AI assistants that kind of connect into systems and do work on behalf of the human masters without humans needing to get involved to any great level of detail. So that's the kind of 3 elements of what we do.
Yeah, cool. And you're providing a platform and a system, and I don't want to dumb this down too much, but to really allow the MSPs to help their customers utilizing AI. Right?
Yeah. So what we heard at the Edge conference, right, was there's a lot of interest in AI. There's a lot of people wanting to do stuff, and the challenges are it needs to be a bit consulting led, because it is very much what's the problem that you're trying to solve, what's the change process going to look like. So kind of working through a lot of those challenges, and we heard a lot of that at the Edge conference. There was a lot of excitement about what's possible, but the challenge is actually making it real. And so what we want to bring to the MSP space is to be that partner that can help engage the customer and then help the MSPs engage the customers. And then we have some technology to kind of come in behind it to actually solve those problems. And then we can get into managed services and recurring revenue, all that kind of nice stuff.
Yeah, and along the way, you'll be transferring some knowledge from your deep well of knowledge to the MSP's well of knowledge so that they can get stronger and better at helping as they go through and provide real use cases to more and more of their partners, right?
Yeah.
Having spent 30 years as an MSP in various shape or forms, you can't know everything, right? And so just because there's a massive change in the technology and AI has gone ahead in leaps and bounds in the last 8 years, as you said, from 2016, when you really, not fell into it, but, doubled down on it. Yeah. The MSPs just dealt with the whole security wave. So now they need expert partners to work alongside, such as yourself, to help transfer that knowledge. I think that's the important thing. No one's expecting them to know everything from day one.
No, and I think there is a little bit of fear around that. I think a lot of people in the tech space, very, very broadly, not MSPs, but just technology in its all-encompassing title, there's a lot of fear. I think that people think they need to know a lot more than they actually do to get started. I think there is a little bit of that hesitancy to start talking to customers about it in fear of not having all the answers. I think we just got to realize, yes, AI has moved a hell of a lot in the last 18 months, but it's still only really a few steps into the marathon. There's a long way to go. And so MSPs should be confident just to start talking to customers we can support and knowledge transfer and just kind of get it started, because it's going to be a very long journey, but there's going to be a hell of a lot of opportunities. But if you don't start, then you're going to not be that trusted partner that customers are looking for. And I think that's the bit that we really want to get across.
Yeah, I think bringing it to their attention and having a very honest conversation is, we don't have all the answers yet, but we have, probably more, a lot more than Joe average, but we've got these expert partners with Arcanum that we can bring along for the ride, and we can discuss use cases. We could discuss areas where we can use AI, automation, workflow rules, in a combination of all of the above to be able to gain efficiencies, increase compliance, reduce risk, all those good business drivers that you have. It's usually around make money, save money, cut risk, right? Yep. People do those types of things. So AI is going to have a real good go in those areas. Some of the listeners will know who our company is, but Zen Contract is a contract automation platform for MSPs. No better use case really for AI than kind of where we're sitting, and that's why we've got a lot of automation, a lot of workflows. That's had a significant decrease in the amount of time that you need to manage contracts. But with the next level of that is we're looking at bringing in some smarts to be able to make educated decisions on our behalf, and then get us to check them. So to even more of the heavy lifting, we've already coded out, but we're looking forward to that use case.
I think that's where to look at it across both MSPs and adopting it themselves and then into their customers is that heavy lifting piece. How do you get 80% of the effort currently done by a human? How do you get AI to take that on? And then the 20% is still the human review, quality control, quality assurance, human in the loop type stuff to minimize that risk. Because it is going to be a bit of a journey of trusting AI to do things more autonomously, and to be able to take on more of that, what was previously human decision making. I think that's the bit we can just keep pushing that out for a while, because there's so much opportunity in just taking on the heavy lifting piece. We don't need to jump straight to AI decisioning. I think there's a long way to go before we exhaust all of the opportunities that come before that.
I think in its purest, simplest form, if you're an MSP, you could start to look at maybe swapping out your virtual assistant.
Yep.
But you're still going to need to have, the checks and balances. And you know what? All the shit that you forgot to tell your virtual assistant.
Yeah.
Right? Because you forgot to suggest option B, C, and D, and not just A. And so there's that type of stuff that will be spring to mind. But I
think one of the other areas that AI has become very good at is kind of analysis, right? So one of the things that we're considering, and I'd love to invite your audience to reach out and talk to us about it, is how can we build MSP some tooling to help them pitch AI to their customers, right? So how do we begin to use AI to do client analysis, a little bit of competitor landscaping, to be able to look at some of the use cases to talk to that customer about? So using AI to help sell AI, I think, is one of the areas that's super interesting. So if we can demonstrate the technology to MSPs, this is really useful, then they're going to be much more comfortable in selling it onto their customers. How do you get that experiential kind of playground to start seeing the power of it before having to try and sell it into customers? So I'd love to talk to anybody about what that might look like, because we can kind of build that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it would be if you have a wood manufacturer, these are the top 5 use cases of where AI might play a part. Maybe those that can lead your conversation. If you've got an insurance broker, it's here. If you've got a farmer who's a dairy farmer, it might be over here, right? So, I mean, any of the listeners here, let's just get that right out of the bat. And how do they get a hold of you? So it's an email address.
So one of the best ways actually is to send an email to hello@arcanum.ai. So that's ARCANUM.ai, and there's an AI assistant attached to that email address. So you can actually interact with our sales assistant through that email address, ask questions, get qualified as a prospect, so on and so forth. So then you get to experience it firsthand, what having an AI assistant kind of looks like. And then through that, then we'll get a conversation set up and have a chat about it.
Right. Well, you and I might have a talk about that actually, because that style of thing would be quite handy for Zen Contract to do some pre-qualification and book a meeting and do all that type of thing.
Yeah.
So
it saves me a few minutes every day, which is kind of where AI's at. If we can accumulate that time saving. So yeah, having people make inquiries and get it all completely qualified through AI before I even speak to somebody just saves, say a few minutes every day, which is great.
I think I want to stress to the listeners that you guys are, you'll use a different term, but you're enabling a white labeled service for MSPs to be able to take artificial intelligence as AI. It's a buzzword, but that's what it is, and take it to their customers to be able to monetize it, to benefit the customer, to keep you as a trusted advisor and all things tech, to keep other parties, other MSPs out of your customers that are embracing this AI side of things. And all of those opportunities, sometimes you've got to find a good partner to work with, because you're not going to be able to just magically monetize it on your own. And so, that's when we first met. I've got an MSP that I still own a bit of in Aussie, and there'll be some introductions made there, and then there's a few other ones in New Zealand as well. We can get that done, but that's it's interesting. What's the uptake been like? Because you're obviously just starting off and getting out into the MSP world. What's the journey been like so far?
Yeah, so there's definitely, it's a bit binary at the moment. You've got those that kind of get that they need to start talking to their customers about AI, and there's those that haven't quite seen that demand yet, and maybe because either the customer base isn't quite educated enough to ask, or the MSPs aren't quite brave enough to ask whether their customers, want some AI. So it's a little bit binary at the moment, and we're hoping to help educate more to kind of get MSPs to be a bit braver. Those that we are engaging with, it's again kind of two parts to it. One is it's education led, and so we're going, hey, let's just take a workshop to your customers to start teasing out some of those use cases and build the confidence that there is demand for AI. And there's others which are like, we already know our customers want it, so let's come up with a technology solution to take to market. So either technology led or education led. They're the kind of two paths that we're seeing at the moment. And both of them are valid. It just kind of depends on whether the MSP is already confident enough to go technology first or education first. But in both of those scenarios, what we're seeing is the MSPs getting good engagement from their customers, because their customers are going, hey, we want to do this AI stuff and we don't really know how. And so whether it's education or technology, there's just been really, really positive feedback so far.
So the buzz into the general working world is big enough that they're like, man, we should investigate this at least in some shape or form. And typically they go to their trusted advisors, unless they're a corporate that have got their own internal team, whatever. But even then, they still have co-managed with MSPs. So that's the logical place that they're going to go and do it.
Right? And that's why we're keen to partner, right? Is we know that SMBs, mid-market, want to and will turn to their trusted advisors. We're not that currently, clearly. And we want to therefore work through MSPs who are, to enable them to go deeper, more enduring kind of technology conversations, grow revenue, through AI services and AI technologies. And so my background is business development, right? So for me, it's all about how do you build a path to market that's going to endure and continue to grow. So that's what we're seeing. One of the points that we heard at the Edge conference was those MSPs that are unwilling to kind of respond to this AI demand from customers, they're the ones that are going to risk kind of losing out to other people. So I heard one story that somebody literally said to their MSP, if you are unwilling to talk to us about AI, we will go and look somewhere else, right? It was very brutal, binary, either you're in or you're not. And so I don't know how common that is right now, but I suspect it's going to be coming in the not too distant future.
Yeah, well, it's in the early adopter phase, right? And if that demand is coming from, I don't know, a CEO that went to a workshop or organized a workshop or went to a conference and saw an inspirational speaker about what potentially could be achieved with, some AI and a good partner, then that's that phase. Then, there's the crossing the chasm. You're going to get the wider adopters. And if you're not skilled up from that first phase, then other people will be. right? So it's the same with the security practice, right? MSPs went through this security revolution over the last 8 years. About the same time, since you've been in AI, and it was the early adopters that sort of started to gobble up and created MSSP practices where they're supplying security for other MSPs, whatever. And I see it as the same wave, a similar wave now, right? And it's where you're elevating your stack, because typically MSPs are in switches, routers, firewalls, desktop servers.
Right.
Elevate that to cloud, and then we've got the security layer. You're just moving more and more further down the stack because the PCs or the computers don't need as much attention as they used to. We're not having to change hosted exchange servers in the middle of the night anymore, which they used to gobble a lot of time. And so we're just elevating out and escalating our way up the stack. And there's probably still some MSPs out there at the moment that are thinking, well, do I make that forward leap or do I not? Or is that left up to the people that write software? I would see the way that the large language models and things are now, it's more of an infrastructure play than it is a creating code play.
Right.
Is that
I agree. I mean, when I started the business, AI was about how many data scientists did you have? Large language models have completely changed the game. It's really now much more about software. But as an MSP, you don't have to be talking about code. You can be talking about business solutions. So that's AI has very quickly, in the last 18 months, kind of moved from this inaccessible technology only for big companies and geeks into much more real world business problem solving. So the conversation should be a lot easier for those MSPs that are willing to talk to the business owners of their customers about the kinds of problems they want to solve. And it doesn't have to be about code. You can be talking about, well, where do you want to reduce cost? Where do you want to increase efficiency? Where do you want to grow? What new products and services? What kind of compliance problems? You can really start talking business owner to business owner about the same types of problems to be solved. And so, it doesn't need to be about coding and PhDs and geeks. It can just be talking about business problems, because that's where AI has got to now, which is super exciting.
Yeah, and the nuts and bolts are the interfaces. Whether you would have had to have created those in the past. You take an API to some middleware to another API to get two systems to talk to each other. There's some coding involved, right? You have to plug those bits together. Now you've got this, I don't know, call it like you're standing talking to a 12-year-old. You've got something that can talk back to you. So you can feed it instructions, right? And it's via sending an email or directly, putting it into
Teams or Slack or some other user interface. Yeah, I mean, it's where do the inputs come from, which could be a OneDrive or a SharePoint. A new document goes in and triggers some stuff, or it could be a direct instruction from a member of the team going, "Hey AI, I want to be able to do this thing using this file." So that the interfaces now are nowhere near as complex and code based. You can plug it into existing Office 365 environments and start adding value very, very quickly.
Right.
It's not big ticket, big integration, long-term project stuff, which is therefore for service integrators or systems integrators, it's a bit harder for them to figure out how to monetize because it's now a lot faster. Whereas an MSP, for me, feels like it's in the right position to be able to go, let's add some business value and wrap a line item around it and some services, and suddenly you've got a pretty exciting practice to take to market.
I mean, just even down to that nuts and bolts area, Asa, is that you've got MSPs know 365, right? That's the main foundational platform that they've been applying their services on for, I don't know, call it 8, 9, 10, 12 years, whatever it is. It used to be called something different, but the Office platform has been a foundational thing for us for some time. So they know that really well. Being able to, provide an automated workflow off the back of some triggered event happening, or a particular, there might be a documents created or a contracts created, coming out of something like our tool. And then off the back of that, you can get it to go and do a lot of the compliance and heavy lifting and notifying the right people, and maybe notifying or even setting up things into other systems to get that seamless flow from beginning to end. It's pretty powerful.
I think one of the challenges, Microsoft's done a phenomenal job at positioning Copilot as the thing the MSPs should just be selling, right? We heard it at Edge, we hear it generally in the market. It's like 99 out of 100 AI discussions at an MSP level are about Copilot. Right?
Yeah.
One of the challenges that we're seeing is it's not that simple to avoid all of the risks and the disappointments of getting the value, from a customer's deployment of Copilot. Because in some respects, you're left with the blank page problem with Copilot sat in an application like, well, how do I make use of this? How do I start getting value from it? And then once you start going, how do I connect systems together and be able to collaborate on things, then it gets kind of harder. You've got various permissions challenges, integration challenges. If you're an expert in Power Automate or whatever, then sure, then there's going to be some opportunities there. But if you're a customer that just wants to get value from AI, then you've got to be talking to organizations like us who can kind of bring use cases, not just bring technology. So I think there is going to be a few MSPs that are like, hey, Microsoft is telling us that all we got to do is sell Copilot and everything's going to be okay. But I think there's going to be some pushback from businesses which are like, hey, when am I going to get some value from this license fee? Because it's all or nothing at this point, right? It's like turn Copilot on or don't have it at all. And that's going to be a tough conversation for some businesses.
And it might be that you start off with your AI practice, kind of like you're doing with your executive workshops, as some Copilot workshops.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And, Arcanum can help you set that up and understand what you need to be teaching, and then train some internal people, and then they can be going and training your end partners, because you're going to be able to supply more services across to people who understand what the benefit is of AI. So I'd advocate that's the best place to start, is to put together and even use Arcanum to do it, is to get some instructor based. That could be online or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Some education out to what is possible.
Yeah, so we've kind of we created off the back of the experience that we've had over the last 8 years an AI adoption canvas. So we've kind of created this thing that helps businesses think through the implications of doing AI. And so we're more than happy to give that away to MSPs, to wrap around their own workshops and their own services to be able to start engaging customers. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, to be able to start talking to customers about this stuff. So yeah, we're really hoping that we can enable MSPs to start educating customers. And then once they kind of move beyond the education into the technology, then obviously we're in a good position to help them.
Yeah, good. Hey, that's cool. I mean, is there any other main things that you wanted to get across today? We'll try and keep them in this amount of time. Really cool to have you on there. And I think, there's an immediate introductions of 3 or 4 MSPs that I know will want to speak to you, which we'll do after this. But is there any other themes that you wanted to get across before we get out the contact sort of side of things?
I think it really is about trying to find the safe and meaningful places to play. So don't think that you have to boil the ocean. When it comes to AI, there's going to be safe places to play. But I would also say that it is going to be very competitive over the next 12 to 18 months. And those that are leaning into it and those that are going to kind of wait and see kind of mode may find that they kind of miss out on opportunities. So it is the kind of time to start seeing what you should do, establishing the right types of partnerships, and start testing the water in the client base. Yeah,
cool. Good advice. And I think get started in a small way, a little bit more today than there was yesterday. I think just incremental steps, but it could be mapping people's workflows on certain documents, or sending an email out and it does a distribution group, and then people are educated on exactly what needs to happen at a particular point in time. Workflows and automations, any manual tasks that you've got a junior person doing, get AI to do that, to free them up to be able to do some more meaningful, and it will all flow upwards and people can work on the business, not in it. Exactly. Anything where there's highly repetitive computer-based tasks.
Yeah.
Those are the places to start, right?
What we kind of say is the rationale for many organizations to do it, and it's MSPs and their clients, is for the last 10 years, everyone's been growing, market's been good, and everyone's grown by adding more humans, right? So it's too hard to figure out how to reprocess everything. So let's just add another human to kind of grow capacity. Obviously, the economy is now a little bit tougher for many organizations, but now's the time to go, how do I grow disconnected from my investment in human resources? Not to say everyone should be cutting costs and removing humans. It's like, if you're going to grow, how do you grow more profitably by using technology instead of just defaulting to hiring humans. And that kind of message is resonating in the end customer market. That's what we're talking to SMBs about, is profitable growth, which is a slightly different, the future looks a bit different to the past. And so they're kind of easy conversations to be having because everyone kind of recognizes that growing profitably is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, our industry, being the MSP industry, went through a little bit of an outsourcing phase and enlisted people out of Sri Lanka, India, the Philippines, and other locations with just slightly cheaper human resources. So augmenting some of those with some AI, and also so freeing up some time and resource. Yeah, there's a myriad of things at the MSP level, and then get started there, and then understand it and understand those use cases, so you can start to monetize it and take it out to into your client base. In conjunction with Arcanum, who can help you along the way. So. Yeah. Hey, cool. Thanks very much for taking the time to have a chat to us about what is a very buzzword topic. I know when we were at the Edge conference, Nancy Rademacher said likened AI to teenage sex, because everyone's talking about it, but no one's doing it.
It's true.
I think the big theme for this would be that, if you're an MSP having a listen, even if you're utilizing the Zen Contract platform, is to start to be an early adopter in this world of AI by educating yourself, partnering with Arcanum, getting an understanding of how you can help your partners. And that's as simple as sending an email to start with to hello@arcanum.ai, and see what that process looks like. If you would ever like to discuss it with me, it's greg@zencontract.com, or you can go to zencontract.com and book a meeting and engage with us that way. But thank you very much, Asa, for coming along and being a bit of a subject matter expert in this world. I know there's a few MSPs that are probably been sitting on the fence that really need to just jump one leg and move forward.
Exactly right. No, it's great. Thanks, Greg. Really appreciate the opportunity. Good chat, and look forward to supporting MSPs and growing their revenue, because AI is a big opportunity that's just around the corner.
Certainly is. All right. Thanks very much for your time. See you, listeners. Bye-bye.
Cool.
All right. Does that stop recording?
Riverside will do its thing. I'll just stop.